Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to the first official vocal log of a fractured mind. My name is Alice, and I'm going to be taking you on a journey through both my past experiences as well as current experiences, day-to-day experiences of living with multiple personality disorder. Very often in modern days referred to as dissociative identity disorder. But as we get into it and talk a little bit more about it, you will see that I have a bit of a differing opinion on it. But we're not going to go that deep that quick. So, what I want to do first of all is I want to address the most important thing uh, that's happening right now, and that you're actually experiencing, is my bad mic. um, I don't know what's happened. I've troubleshot everything I can with my mic. I've had crystal clear recordings before, and I'm not sure what I did or what has changed, but my mic is sounding really, really bad right now, and I know it's picking up probably some white noise, and I apologize for that. I'm actually using my gaming mic through my headphones. I'm not wearing my headphones because it actually changes the sound, which is really weird. I'm holding the microphone up to my mouth, which is kind of weird. Um, and I have a good microphone. However, I can't find the phantom power source. I don't know where the box is. So until I can locate that, we're going to be stuck with this mic. So long as I can get it to work, as well as it's working right now, which, believe it or not, is the best I've been able to get it to work for about a month now. Which is weird because it's not affected when I plug it into my Xbox. The sound is fine. So, that being addressed, the terrible sound, um, let's talk about my name, Alice. Alice is not my real name. Alice is not what is on my driver's license. It's not what is on my birth certificate. Alice is a moniker I have chosen to use for the use of this channel, appropriately so, being named after Alice Liddell, who fell down the rabbit hole and went on adventures in Wonderland, which is quite often what having a mental health issue can be like. Little background of me. I'm not some young spring chicken. I am 47 years old. This year I will actually be 48. So, I have quite a few years of experience living with MPD. It started when I was about 5 years old, as you would expect after terrible trauma, which that also we will get into in another vlog. I think this first vlog is just going to be kind of a lighthearted, happy-go-lucky. We're not, like I said, we're not going to go too deep too fast, um, because that's not how my mind works. There's a few of me inside. I have 15 different alters, um, aside from the core, which is me, the one who drives. I'm always driving. And I don't have a version of MPD that I think is common. There used to be, many years ago, there was a word I know that was used to describe my very uncommon for sort of MPD, but I can't think of what the word is. I don't know what it is. And since the medical journals, a lot of people want to think that DID, dissociative identity disorder, is the same thing as MPD, and it's not. Um, they've changed the wording. That's not what they changed. They didn't change the diagnosis. They changed the classification, basically, that there are multiple different kinds of dissociative identity disorders that cover a broad spectrum of manifestations, symptoms, results, consequences in some situations. Um, and mine isn't one of the classic, more commonly found kind. Uh, my personalities have always been aware of one another. Um, they've never been shielded or walled off from one another. Uh, they came at various points in my life for various reasons. Some of them I could tell you exactly what caused their appearance, and others I can't tell you exactly when they showed up. They just were there. Um, but another thing that's different about my sort of MPD is, unlike most people who suffer from dissociative identity disorder, I don't do your classic switching. I don't switch between personalities. My personalities don't have different names or faces or genders or race or anything. They're all me. And we've always known that we were all the same person from jump. And I think a big part of that could be because it happened when I was so young, that my mind hadn't gotten to the point of being able to have more adult-like thoughts. Thinking back as an adult on things, you can be much more thoughtful about stuff, but children are pretty malleable in their minds, which I think probably is what allows the fracturing to happen um, in kind of a safe way, as it did with me, which isn't always the case for most people. I know the great majority of cases of dissociative identity disorder or actual multiple personality disorder, there's blackouts, there's amnesia, there's, like I said, the switching, and I've never experienced any of that. They influence me, most certainly. And over, the vlogs, we're gonna, you're gonna hear some stories. I'm gonna share some stories with you and some experiences and what I thought and felt at the time, and maybe what I discovered or thought as an afterward. Um, because I do. When you live with something like this, and you can't take anything for granted. Everything in my life is a group effort. We all agree on what we're eating. We all agree on what we stand for. We all agree, you know what I mean? And it didn't always happen that way as easily, but we all know we're the same person and that we're all working towards the same goals. We've always known that. Quite in point of fact, I have an alter that manifested due to a direct result of disharmony happening between the other alters and myself, the core, and we needed a mediator. So the solution was to peel off another facet and give that alter the duty. My alters don't have names. They don't have their own names because they're not independent individual personalities. They're me. They're facets of me. Everybody, the average person who doesn't suffer from MPD or DID, which I think is pretty uncommon in today's time. It's pretty absurd how rampant the DID is now. We'll talk about that some other time, though. But the point of me saying that is the average person who doesn't suffer from split personalities or any sort of personality disorder, they just see themselves as a whole. I'm just one person, but what they don't really seem to understand is that whole person is made up of many different feelings and thoughts and ideas. Some of them very powerful, some of them very subtle. With a person, for me, and again, anything I say I'm speaking to is only about myself and my alters, my little clan, that we are all 16 of us, including myself, the alter, because I have 15 alters, as I said, we are all one person. We just have definitive lines as to where emotions are. For example, a person who is normally very meek and mild and chill could be triggered to have an explosive reaction. And to them, that was just a moment out of time. That was, doesn't usually happen. That's not normal for me. They wouldn't consider that a separate personality. Whereas, though it not be, it is a separate facet of the core person. And it's all these different separate facets that come together to make up a whole person. Just in the average person, that's what it is. All those little facets are glued together like, faces of a carved jewel. Whereas with someone like myself, those facets have been separated and laid out in a line on a piece of paper. And they look and appear as though they are individual, independent pieces, but they are not. They are just one piece of a greater whole, and the greater whole is me, Alice. That's me. Hi. So, I really, considering that this happened to me at such a young age, I really don't have anything else that I can understand. I can't understand. I can try to understand what a normal person is, which is what allowed me to explain what I just explained. I think about these things. I think a lot about them, and because fortunately I have 15 other voices that I can actually brainstorm with and bounce ideas off of and have conversations, meaningful conversations with, I'm able to have these really deep and thoughtful conversations with myself. The other pieces of me that might have a pure vision of something. The angry one might not be able to see the loving one's opinion as clearly because they're driven by their own responsibilities, essentially. Um, so I'm getting a little distracted to hear my kitty cat hollering. That's something you're probably going to hear me throughout throughout my vlogs go off a little bit about is my animals. I have a lot of animals, and I talk to them all the time. I talk to them, and they're used to me talking to my alters. I do talk out loud to my alters. We have quiet conversations. We have out loud conversations. None of the others have a voice. I'm the only one that opens my mouth and sound comes out. But so it's usually when you do hear me talking out loud, like were you a friend or in my home or something, it's just a one-sided conversation. It's like hearing someone on the phone. You only hear the one side. So, yeah, I don't have a format as to how I want to run this channel or what I'm going to talk about. I honestly, I think I'm just going to end up winging it and do a bit of chit-chatting and, like I said, sharing of some experience and stories with you guys. Hopefully you will be interested and choose to subscribe so you can hear and listen all upcoming vlogs. I hope that doesn't annoy anybody, me calling it vlog. I'm changing the V into something I want it to. Vocality. So, yeah, there's a lot of years and a lot of stories and a lot of situations that have happened to me throughout my life that have caused the fracturing of my mind, and that's what it is. That's why that's the name of my channel, and that's what I call my mind. It's fractured. It's not broken. It's just in pieces, but all the pieces come together, and I can still see my reflection in the mirror, and I'm okay with that. I couldn't imagine not having multiple voices in my head. More than anything, on occasion, it gets annoying. It gets annoying because it's loud in my head, and someone's always talking. Like my cat right now, who's meow, meow, meow. I don't know if you can hear her. She is going off. But, yeah, I lost my train of thought with that. That'll probably happen a lot, too. But, yeah, I never feel lonely. I never feel empty. If anything, I feel crowded. But over the years, we've gone through an evolution, me and my clan. We've gone through an evolution. When I was much younger, the altars were never a problem. They were guides. They were helpful, even the not so nice ones. But when I got into, I would say probably about my early 20s, that's when I really, really started having difficulty and power struggles with them. And over the years, we came up with a solution. And it won't work for everyone, that's for sure, but it worked for me and my altars that are present. Some are more active than others. Uh, there's probably a core group of altars that do the great majority of the participation. There are some altars who aren't allowed to participate. And there are some altars who have a voice but will not be heeded. I've probably got a pretty good mix of dark and light personalities. A couple of them fairly neutral. They simply serve a purpose, as they all do, I suppose, ultimately. But meaning that they they have a job to do and they do it, and they don't create any hullabaloo. When we have our meetings or our get-togethers or our chats, they don't need to be a part of it. They're good. So it's not like I'm constantly always having to deal with 15 people. One thing that's kind of difficult to deal with, the 15 personalities, is my laundry. I have a great deal of clothes, which is kind of funny. My husband, for a very long time, he's a very minimalist individual. He doesn't have a lot of clothes. He never has kept a lot of clothes. He can't wrap his brain around the fact that I've got an entire walk-in closet just for my worth of clothes just for myself. And he usually doesn't bust my chops over it too terribly much. But there was one day he said something and it totally stopped. He never asked or mentioned it again. And he asked me. He was like, why? I just don't understand why you have so many clothes. Why do you need all these clothes? Because they're all so radically different. And I just told him, I was like, 15 women is a lot of people to dress, honey. And at that moment, he realized, he was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense why you have all these different clothes. And he never mentioned it again because he understood. He's been living, my husband and I have been together now. We got together in 2001, a month before 9/11 actually. So August 1st was our date, 2001. Yeah, isn't that cool? That was my mom's birthday too. Anyways, so yeah, we've been together, it'll be 19 years this year in 2020. And he's perfectly aware of how fractured my brain is. And he finds it interesting, and he's curious about it, and he's asked many questions. He doesn't fight living with it. Once he did find it to be a struggle until he understood what was happening. He thought I was just a lunatic, I think. So one of those crazy broads your mom warned you about. But no, I'm not. I'm just fractured. And once he understood that, he understood everything. And he's now actually gotten to the point to where he knows if I say or react or do whatever, he knows who has been influencing me. I'm not sure if he's aware that they don't get to drive. I mean, I've told him that, but he can recognize whose influence is over me when I say or do certain things. Or if he hears me laugh at something off to myself or something bizarre happens, he'll ask me, what does this one think about that? Or, who are you laughing with? Because he knows, me and all my alters, we don't all have the same sense of humor. Me, the core, I've got the humor of probably a 12-year-old boy. I think potty humor is freaking hilarious. I think silliness is awesome. But some of the alters are a little more mature and classier than that. So, he'll ask. He's like, who you laughing with? Which is cool. It's really nice and beneficial to have a partner and someone who not only understands but supports the process of the system that I'm working with within my own mind. And that's what it is. That it's a system. It's a system that has to work and function efficiently and properly. Otherwise, bad things can happen. And like everybody else, even though I don't experience the blackout amnesia and the switching personalities, I have had struggle. I've had a great deal of emotional and mental torment in the power struggles that have happened between my alters and myself throughout my life. We're smooth sailing now. We have been for quite some time. We had a small hiccup that we'll talk about down the road a little bit when I'm ready to get to that point. It's pretty heavy for me, so we're gonna save that one until a little bit later. What else can we chit chat about? I want to keep this light. I don't like I said I don't want to get too serious and too heavy. Kind of want to break these walking shoes in a little bit. Oh, that was one thing I was going to tell you is about my husband being able to identify who shows up and who is interested in whatever's going on, is when babies or animals are around. As with every single living person who has multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder, I have a little meaning a child. And the little girl is me. It was me as a little girl. It was me around the age that my initial and first fracture happened. So I was about 5 years old, and she just loves animals and babies. She thinks they're the greatest thing ever, and I could be frowny faced and poopy and grumpy and any number of horrible feeling things, but the second an animal or a baby is around me, I'm just squealing with delight and stomping my feet because I want to gobble it up alive. I want some sugar from those babies. And that's the little girl. That is absolutely her. Her influence is unstoppable when it comes to things that just make her little heart squeal, and we give that to her. Yeah, she can have that as much as she wants. She's she's a big girl for being such a little girl, and we'll talk about that later too once we start getting into the actual personalities. Like I said, I have no script. I have no format of how or what I want to do to tackle this. I'm a bit of a natural storyteller. I love telling stories. I love being told a good story. So in my many years of thinking about and breaking down and trying to understand, process, and absorb what happened, and is happening to me via the vehicle of mental health disorder, um, sometimes it becomes a story, and the way I can explain and define things can be poetic or theatrical. Please don't misunderstand that in thinking that it's fiction or made up or false. Um, I speak sometimes in a flowery way, but only I think because that's what my heart sings to, and I think maybe that's what touch your heart, or some of you anyway. Um, Clinicality, I'm not a giant fan of. Sanitization, I'm not a big fan of. I'm all about barefoot on the beach with your toes in the ash of the campfire. Well, you hear a wonderful oral told happening, and that's me. That's what I like. That's what most of us like. A couple of us are city girls, but we're okay in the country too. um, let's see. You know, I think that is probably a pretty good first vlog. I'm not sure what we're going to move on to on the next vlog. I think it's just going to be a hit and whim. I think we're just going to improv most of this. At some point, I will go through and we will address and talk about each individual altar that I have and how or when or why they came to be and at what point. And I think maybe we should probably give each one of them their own episode. Um, so we will save them, we'll break them down. I think maybe on our second vlog here, vlog number 2, I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into the deep end, kids. I think we're going to go ahead and go straight for the meat, and that is to share with you how my initial fracture happened at the age of 5. I do want to warn you, it's not a pretty story. I think anybody listening to this or who chose to click on this video on YouTube, I think you know that. I think you know anyone with any sort of fractured mind has experienced mental trauma at some point, usually at a young age. Um, so be aware that when we do get into it, um, I'll try not to include all the gruesome details, but it's not a story full of sunshine and rainbows. And I will be sharing that on our next vlog. So until then, thank you so much for choosing to come watch my first vlog. I hope you decide to return and continue to listen to the journey that I'm planning on taking you on. If anything else, maybe you'll find something that you yourself connect to. Maybe you yourself have it and don't know. Maybe you're afraid to find out about it. Being an older gal, I gotta tell you, the internet's a wonderful thing. There's a lot of safe places you can go to find that information if you're wondering if you have or might have personality disorder or borderline personality disorder. Um, and it's okay. It's okay if you do. You can still live a wonderful, wonderful, healthy life, and deal with this. You can make it through. Look at me. We're good. We're good, and you can be too. It just takes time sometimes and a lot of work, and unfortunately a lot of pain sometimes. But I can assure you that the rewards that you will reap, should you choose to turn inward and work on yourself and learn to work with this disorder, life is wonderful. Life is wonderful. I can't wait to see what tomorrow holds. And I hope it holds you. So I hope to see you back on our second vlog. And until then, thank you so much for coming by and listening to me. Have a wonderful day to all of you.